All right, here's all the major components of the Savage 99, kind of broke down and laid out. We've got, obviously it's disassembled completely. There's a bunch of parts that they're not shown here, screws and pins and springs and other smaller components, safety lever, things of that nature. But this is what we're focusing on right now for the rebarrel side of things. So just briefly, we'll just go over here. Here's the stripped down receiver. You know, typical Savage 99, model 99. Good shape other than the faded bluing. The bolt, very uniquely shaped bolt. The lever, the unique rotary magazine, and the spring's actually still pretty good in there. Quite tarnished. I've given this a little bath in the parts washer, but that's obviously going to have to be polished. But all the engraving is still there, the stamping for the numbers. So I believe we'll be able to reuse this. We're going to try. And then the trigger. You know, so this is a pretty dead simple rifle. They're quite a bit of fun and very pretty when they, when they're cleaned up again and all that stuff. So that'll be a pretty fun job. So here's the original barrel, and then I had this brand new blank made by McGowan. They made me a duplicate of the contour, and this is going to be chambered in 243 Winchester. That's what it originally was chambered in. So customer wants to keep it true, so that's what's going to happen. So you'll notice a few attachments on the barrel. There's a 4-end hanger there and a front sight ramp. So those two items will be removed from this barrel and soldered onto the new barrel. The barrel band has been duplicated. They made it a little bigger. Not super psyched about that because it has to fit into the stock just right. So I'll probably have to do a little inletting in the stock to get this to sit right. Then just your standard 243 Winchester chambering reamer, same spec. And then a 308 Winchester go gauge for the chambering process. So what I've done off camera is taken some measurements. The receiver here has what's referred to as an inner ring, and it's this feature here. This guy will focus for me. Right in there. Inner ring, similar to a Mauser and the Weatherby Mark V, just in that it has an inner ring. So you've got two dimensions to kind of be cognizant of: the torque shoulder itself for the barrel, and then the inner ring. So that barrel is going to be touching or almost touching in here, the breech end of it. And then the breech itself has a bunch of these funky cutouts. So that's going to be, I've done a few of these in the past, and you just got to set them up on the mill just right to get the angles perfect and everything. And it's really not perfection. It's just a clearance cut for the bolt. It's got this nub on the top that's like machined into the bolt. I really don't know what purpose that serves other than just maybe an alignment thing. And then the big extractor on the side. So you can remove the extractor. I have not at this point. But the problem chambering a fresh barrel is there's no way to check headspace because there's no cutouts for these things. So I can't actually get a reading on a headspace gauge when the thing is in. When the thing's in battery like that. So basically we're lucky to have the original barrel, so I took measurements off that, and factory tolerances are definitely sloppy, but then again, this isn't exactly a precision rig here. I mean, you know, it should shoot good with a nice fresh barrel on it and all that stuff, but we're not talking like F-class level precision here. Not to say I haven't gotten cut any corners. It's just a bit different of a technique to get the new barrel fit in chamber, you know, headspace properly. So what else is there? Yeah, I believe that's it for this. We'll just show you some footage of the process along the way. The threads are what's known as a square thread. So literally square. So you can see there's no V grooves, you know, like a traditional 60-degree V groove thread would be. That is a dead square wave style thread. Totally can be done. You need a special cutter for that, which I've already got in my toolbox for things such as this. And then this little stub, I just make this to test and make sure I got all my dimensions proper, lengths, diameters, TPI, and whatnot. So previously, just to check, I made sure this would fit, which it does. It's actually a little on the loose side, which is fine. So that the actual barrel I can make just a tiny bit bigger so that it fits more snugly. Square threads are never going to be like snug. You know, they've got a lot of clearance in order to actually do the job they're intended to do. So it is what it is on that. But I like to do this with actions I don't work with very often. Just make sure I got all my bearings straight before I start machining on a real barrel. So now that I do, I've got some calculations and measurements figured out over there on my sheet. So we're ready to get this installed and turn that down, thread it, get it installed in the receiver here. Or at least pre-installed. Like I said, we got some breech cuts to make on the milling machine. So this will be quite a process. It's not a very simple operation to rechamber one of these or rebarrel one of these. So enjoy the ride, and as always, leave a comment if you've got questions or anything like that. So anyway, we'll get to it here. All right, so I got the barrel installed in the blueprinting jig, which is essentially a double 4-jaw chuck. Helps me to align the barrel as you're seeing here. So I'm aligning the barrel in the chamber section in 2 different places. Right here up towards where the mouth of the breech would be. Mouth of the chamber, that is. And then when I go in deeper, that's where the throat's going to be. So the end of the case, where the transition from the mouth of the case to the rifling. And that .125, I believe that was telling me to cut off about 1/8 of an inch to get the thing to line up in the stock and all that stuff. All right, here we are facing off the barrel. It's got the old carbide cutter out, doing a facing operation here. There's a little bit of weirdness going on there at the end of the facing cut. I believe that's just due to the slightly less rigid setup we got going on. But rest assured, that's going to be cleaned up. You know, filming this particular job, there's a lot of things left out, so I apologize for that. It's hard to get everything to see here. Like now, I completely missed all the turning. So anyway, the barrel tenon has been turned to the major diameter. And we're getting ready to thread. So here we've got the square threader in. Taking that first pass, verifying it's 12 threads per inch, as you see there. So 12 threads per inch, and now we're going to proceed to thread to depth to get the receiver to screw on properly. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, it's a lot of footage gets missed because I'm a working gunsmith, so it's my primary job, so I have to get these jobs done, and sometimes time crunch or constraint or whatever, I don't get everything filmed. So there's a lot of things in this job you're gonna not see, and I apologize for that. I still thought it was worthy of releasing because, like right here, I don't think there's any other square threading videos on the internet, at least quality ones. So it's maybe interesting to some folks to see a square threading operation. It's just like any other, it's just the cutter is essentially a square, and it has to be the correct width, and it's all calculated by the TPI and some other variables there. But just like any other threading operation, you're just incrementally going deeper and deeper, except that there's no, the compound rest is not used for this. It's just straight in, incrementally deeper and deeper until you've achieved the proper depth. 24. And so, yeah, you're not going to see it, but once I get to a certain depth, I'll check it with the receiver, screw it on, and make sure it fits. Clearing off the chips so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, and by the way, this video has been sped up too. This is I sped it up so it's not quite as boring, so people aren't falling asleep watching this. So this is about 175% speed. I still thread fairly fast, but not quite this fast. So we're getting real close here. This is almost the end of the threading operation. And so there's the completed thread tenon. It looks like I got the relief cuts in the front and the back. And just a matter of some deburring. But that's it for the threads. Now here, I'm going to be cutting the recess for the bolt nose. So Savage 99s need a little bit of a recess to accommodate the nose of the breech bolt. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to come in and check with the dial calipers, make sure my diameter is right. Whoops. So whatever I just measured there, I'm going to add a little bit and come out to my final diameter. So here I'm going to give it a little extra, whatever that may be. And just proceed to cut that to the proper depth, just like anything else. And there's the completed breech face. And there, I've skipped a whole bunch of stuff, but that is pre-drilled and bored out for the chambering operation. So, yep, we missed all that footage, but basically just go in there with a twist drill and clear out most of the material, and then bore it out with a precision boring bar to smooth out that pre-chamber. So now here is the 243 Winchester coming in for the first pass to start cutting the chamber. This is a SAMI spec, typical standard SAMI spec 243 Winchester chambering reamer. And again, this is sped up. As I get closer to the final, oh, there's the finished, there's the finished chamber. All right, now we're set up in the milling machine, and we're going to be doing those cuts for the breech features. So one is for the top dead center cut, the alignment cut, whatever, and then the one off to the side is the extractor. So I got a 1/4 inch end mill in here, and we're just kind of set up at about a 45-degree angle. There I'm checking the original barrel, making sure everything's looking correct. Proceeding to cut to depth for clearance of the extractor. and the alignment nub top dead center on that breech bolt. Kind of eyeballing. I do measure as best I can, but this being an angled cut, it's kind of tricky to get any kind of precise measurement. And it's really just clearance cuts, really, so there's no huge precision going on here. Important thing is to not break into the chamber section there. You wouldn't want to do that. So there's both cuts done. Now I'm just deburring with a small square file. But you'll see there's that's probably, yeah, that's the extractor cut there, and the one on the right side is the alignment cut for the top dead center. And then I use a Dremel to give it a slight radius. So a concave slight radius. That's all I'm doing here. Again, it's nothing precision, so just some clearance, really, that's all there is to it. Now to prepare for the muzzle work, this customer wanted a hunter crown. So here I'm grinding a high-speed steel tool by hand to basically create a form cutting tool for that hunter crown. And you'll see that coming up here soon, but a hunter crown is just a radius kind of thing, kind of round external radius. And so now I'm just pre-grinding away the middle there, starting that radius, and just clearing out some of that tool for this. So now I've got a stone in the milling machine, and I'm just kind of grinding by hand, grinding away that tool, because as far as I know, nobody sells well, they probably do, but I know how to grind high-speed steel tools, so I just buy the blanks and grind them. That square thread cutting tool was also ground by hand by me. So I was fortunate enough to learn how to do that by some old school machinists, so definitely saves some money and time because you're not waiting on delivery. But so here's the muzzle of the barrel. I've cut it off to the required length, and now I'm centering the tool, getting it to cut evenly on both sides before we start plunging in. And it's just kind of an eyeball kind of thing. There, I bumped the camera. That's not the lathe shaking, that's just the camera. And now just verify it's cutting, and now speed it up a little bit. And just basically feed it in till it cuts a nice radius on the outside for that hunter style crown. There is the hunter crown completed, polished up. All right, here is the dovetail cut for the rear sight. So as you saw earlier, that barrel band was just blank. So basically have to get it torqued onto the receiver there so we know where top dead center is. We get that laid out, and then I'll go in there with probably a 3/16 inch end mill and clear out that channel there before the dovetail cutter. Just makes life easier for the dovetail cutter, less material to cut off. So I'm just kind of coming in, making sure to have plenty of lubrication and clearing the chips out to avoid any damage to the dovetail cutter or the dovetail itself. So that's what's going on. We'll get through it here soon. Definitely need to clear out those chips. We don't want them trapped in the channel there since it's cutting on both sides at the same time. And we certainly don't want to dull or break that tool. So taking our time, there you'll see the chips kind of flushing out there at the end. And there the tool is exiting, and that dovetail is complete. Here is the front sight. Same deal, we're leveling this top dead center. And we're going to go in there and solder it in. So here I'm using my propane torch to heat up the barrel, preheat everything, get it nice and warm and hot for the soldering, which is, and that stuff around everything is flux, so that flux cleans everything, makes sure there's no oxidation going on as the solder melts into place. Try not to get it too hot. It's kind of a balancing act here. Soldering is not easy your first few times, but there you'll see the soldering sucking in nicely as it should. And am I using way too much solder? Yes. But in my experience, it's better to use way too much than not enough and have to do this over again. Because nothing's worse than getting everything polished in and the thing breaks off. So here, my wife Crystal is probably cursing me right now because she's having to remove all that excess solder. So as I film her doing it. But that's what she's doing here with a little file, and now she's polishing it out with some emery cloth. Getting it nicely shaped and polished. Making it look like it was part of the barrel. Sorry, I can't seem to focus my camera here. There's a better shot. All right, well, we skipped a lot of stuff, but here is the stock pieces finished. This forearm was checkered, so that checkering, I've just chased the checkering, so that's why it's a little uneven in spots. The original checkering wasn't the best job, but I did the best I could to get the diamonds to come back up and make a couple new borders there. The buttstock did not have checkering. The customer did not want to invest in the checkering for the buttstock, and here's the finished product. So we've reblued it. We reblued all the steel, polished the steel, reblued it. The stock pieces are missing the sling swivel studs. The customer had those. Front sight there is made out of brass, so that did not get blued. But you can see there the sights are installed. Everything is nicely blued, so we have a Dulite black oxide hot salts, boiling salt, professional gunsmithing bluing system. That's a mouthful. So certainly can classic blue. And then there's a recoil pad, grind to fit style recoil pad installed. And here's just the other side. So turned out real nice, as you can see. There's the rotary magazine installed, 0. So those are kind of a little tricky to get installed. If you've done a few, you know what you're doing. The first one's always a total pain in the butt, but it does work. Unfortunately, I have no footage of me working the thing or shooting it. So apologies for all the missed footage in this job. I know I've missed a lot. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Information will be in the description below for getting in touch. This is Jeff Montgomery from Accurate Rifles and Restorations, signing out. We'll see you on the next one.